It's the Movie Music Tag 2024.
Who was that guy? Anyway, felicitations, fellow fine film music fans. As he said, this is the 2024 Movie Music Tag Challenge. And this year it's being administered by us at the Movie Soundtrack and Score Collectors Facebook group, which includes me and Retro Reels and Cinematic Sound Radio, hence the logos on that opening screen back there. So this year we've got 20 questions. We're not putting them in any order. We'll have a list of the 20 down the bottom. We're just inviting you to answer as many as you like. Do them all if you want. You can do some of them if you look at some of them and go, I haven't got anything for that, or it's too complicated, or whatever. So these are what the 20 questions are, in no particular order. Number 1. A film that received only a traditional soundtrack release at the time of the film's release, but which has some time later finally got an expanded score release. My choice for this one is the classic comedy Airplane. This is a much loved record because it's a very funny record for a very funny film, but it does consist of mostly the story and the gags, and so what you can hear of Elmer Bernstein's music is kind of in the background. Took me a long time to acquire a copy of that. It has tended to be a bit on the dear side. I got that for just shy of $33 and was glad to have done so at the time. Next question. A soundtrack with unusual or quirky packaging. I've got two options here, one on vinyl and one on CD. Vinyl, Wishfinder General. Now you might say, well, that's just your bog standard gatefold album, but it's not quite, because it's got a pop-up Matthew Hopkins in it. So a little fold-out pop-up of Vincent Price. Is that not quirky enough for you? Okay, well, how about the CD one? Now, this is a cardboard box, and you say, oh, it's the Simpsons movie score. Cardboard box. Why is it a big fat cardboard box? The answer is because it's got a donut in it. Donuts, yeah. And why has it got a donut in it? Because the plastic donut is a holder for the CD. So it's massively overpackaged for a single compact disc. But that's a bit of fun, isn't it? Next. The composer by whom you've got most scores. For me, that'll be Jerry Goldsmith. I'm going to include a picture of my Jerry Goldsmith collection here. That is something like 130 things, thereabouts. And close behind is John Williams. There's a picture of those. Something like 105, 110 of those. Next question is best compilation of all time. Well, you've got single composer compilations, you've got multi-composer compilations, you've got score and song compilations. Different categories, really. For single composer compilations, my pick would be that. It's called The Seahawk. It's Charles Gerhardt and the National Philharmonic Orchestra compilation of Corn Gold music. And every one is an absolute banger, to use the vernacular. In terms of multi-composer things, it would be very easy to pick these Eric Kunzel Cincinnati Pops Telarc discs, which I'm sure Eric at Cinematic Sound is likely to do. I'm going to try and pick something else because I didn't grow up with those. I kind of acquired them much later. So my picks would be either this, which is John Mauceri and the Hollywood Bowl Orchestra doing well, it's called The Great Waltz. It's waltzes from scores. Richard Rodney Bennett's Murder on the Orient Express, obviously. Bernard Herrmann's Snows of Kilimanjaro. Miklos Rozsa, Madame Bovary. Franz Waxman, Hotel Berlin. Max Steiner, Jezebel. Korngold, Prince and the Pauper. And then some other kind of more classical ones that happen to have been used in films. Johann Strauss, as adapted by Dmitri Chomkin, The Great Waltz, things like that. Lush is about the best word for that. And then in terms of things that are compilations of both scores and songs together, for pure nostalgia reasons, I've gone for that. Film Tracks, which was for British Film Year, which was something like 1980, 1981. I had the cassette version of this since a very young age because it was in the possession of the cinema where my mum worked and then where I subsequently worked, and we brought the thing home and played it to death practically. I found that one on vinyl in a local independent record store early last year for £2, and I thought I've got to have that really. Next question is about James Bond. Your favourite James Bond score or song or both? So I've got two separate picks here. For score, it was a bit hard. Most of them are good. I'm tempted to say, GoldenEye, obviously, just to wind some people up. But no, not GoldenEye. It's all right. I think it's better than some people do, but no, it's not top of the list, is it really? I'm going to go for one of the John Barry classics and pick Diamonds Are Forever. But in terms of song, it's got to be We Have All the Time in the World with the great Louis Armstrong. For many years, I have harboured the idea of doing a Yorkshire dialect cover version of this. What I need is a kind of karaoke style backing track. We have all time in world. If that's all us had, that'd fine. We'd need nowt else. Yeah, Next question. Favourite Disney soundtrack? I'm going to confess I'm not a big Disney collector. I haven't got like masses of them. I've maybe got 6 or 7 at most, something like that. From the classic era Disney's, I'm going to pick that because you can't go wrong with the bare necessities and I Want to Be Like You and all that kind of thing. And for more modern, does it count as modern? Yeah, I think it does. Mid-90s, Goldsmith, Mulan. Best love theme or love song? Songs? Don't know. I mean, if it weren't for the strange speaking style, then obviously Can You Read My Mind from Superman would be a high contender. In terms of it's an orchestral love theme, I'm going to go with Miklos Rozsa's That Hamilton Woman. It's just shy of 5 minutes. I don't think there's an actual soundtrack album for the film, but it's on several compilations, including this one here, Molten Gold. You can see there's a thing for it in the middle, one of those 3 posters on the front cover. Yeah, again, sumptuous. Next question is favourite piece of non-film music by someone who's regarded as a film composer. I've got quite a few of those, including modern people like, Danny Elfman's Violin Concerto and Michael Kamen's Saxophone Concerto and some kind of Elliot Goldenthal things and all that kind of stuff. In terms of modern, that's one that I suspect a lot of you might not have heard of. It's an oratorio with music by Richard Harvey and libretto by the cartoonist Ralph Steadman, who's also illustrated the little book that comes in it. It's a powerful thing. It's got a cast of Ben Kingsley and Ian Hulme and Penelope Wilton. Yeah. That's a cracker. But top of the list is an old recording. It's a compilation of recordings from 1946 to 1963. It's been one of my favourites for donkey's years, and it's that Jascha Heifert's doing Korngold's Violin Concerto, Roger's Violin Concerto, another Miklos Roger piece, theme and variations, and Franz Waxman's version of Carmen Fantasy. It's just fabulous. Next question is a one-hit wonder. A score you love from a composer you have no other scores by. Now that could be someone who's scored a lot of things and you've just only happened to have bought one, or someone who's only actually scored one. It's Lady Jane by Stephen Oliver. Scored. He was a theatre composer. Did his first film and then sadly died. That is a very good score, and so had he stayed with us, I think he would have been a major name. But I'm going to pick one of my favourite kind of synth scores instead of orchestral stuff, and that's this, which is Beyond the Black Rainbow by Sinoia Caves, which is a pseudonym for Jeremy Schmidt. Yeah, that's a favourite of mine in terms of synth scores. If you're into synth scores and you haven't got that one, if you like your John Carpenters and Tangerine Dreams and things like that, really worth checking out. Next question is, which year, in terms of film release years rather than soundtrack release years, because sometimes they're released years after the film, which year do you have the most soundtracks from? And I'm the kind of sad nerd who kind of logs everything on an Excel spreadsheet, and so I've got a nice column for each year, and I can see at a glance. I don't see it's a tie. For me, it's a tie between 1986 and 1997. Both years I've got something like 62 folks soundtracks for each of those years. Next question, favourite record label? Now obviously back in the day, I mean, you can see all the kind of things with little reddy brown spines on them on those shelves. Back in the day, this obviously would have been Varese. They've wobbled a bit in recent years, and people like La La Land and Intrada, and more recently Quartet and Movie Score Media have kind of really come up and filled the space with very good releases. Intrada is going to be a popular answer here, I think. But in my case, I'm going to go for Chandos. I've done a separate video all about them. They are not releasing original soundtrack recordings like all of these things. They're re-recordings of old scores, very much majority of which are golden age British composers, but not exclusively. I mean, I've got on here John Addison, Richard Addinsell, William Alwyn, Malcolm Arnold, Arnold Bax, Arthur Benjamin, Leighton Lucas, Richard Rodney Bennett, Stanley Black, Arthur Bliss, Francis Chagrin, and so on and so forth. They're mostly with the BBC Phil. They're mostly conducted by Raymond Gamba. Uniformly excellent recordings and performances. Well worth it if you're into that kind of thing. And something that one still can't believe is that this 3D box set, 3 CD box set of Ralph Vaughan Williams. So that's 78 minutes on one, 70 minutes on the other, 66 minutes on the third. Still available from Chandos' own website for a £5. Yeah, Chandos is my pick for best label. Next question, favourite end credit track? My choices here are either Return of the Jedi, And you might say to me, yeah, you mean the old Return of the Jedi or the new Return of the Jedi? Because they're different pieces of music, and the answer is both, so there. Or Young Sherlock Holmes. It's just a fabulous end credit piece, that is. Next question, most expensive soundtrack purchase. Now, obviously, sometimes you spend a lot when you buy a lot of things, but this is talking about a single thing. In terms of the most expensive item purchased, it's going to be the Rambo box set. But that is a set of 5 discs representing 3 films. So if you divide that down, then I think it was £125, something like that. Doesn't become quite so much when you divide it. In terms of the most for a single recording, it's going to be my copy of John Williams' The Reavers LP. And you might say, why did you pay a lot of... This was £89. You might say, why did you pay £89 for an LP of The Reavers? And the answer is, because it is signed. Yeah. I since John Williams doesn't appear to be coming to London again, I don't think I'm going to get a chance to see him in concert in person and get something signed. So that's my best. Next question is favourite video game soundtrack. I'm going to confess that I am not a gamer, and I am not particularly a game score collector. It's by far the smallest subset of my collection. I've got less than a dozen game scores. My pick is Everybody's Gone to the Rapture by Jessica Curry. It's not your typical what you think of as a video game score, that's for sure. Very classical, very kind of pastoral, choral, almost sort of folky in places. Yeah, it's good stuff. But it's not kind of big driving action, shooting people kind of music at all. Best television soundtrack. Okay, well, the thing about television soundtracks is you've got the ongoing background music for the episodes, which is one thing, and you've got the main theme, which is a different thing entirely. For ongoing scores throughout, it's getting old now. We've had lots of great stuff in recent years, but I'm still going to go with the young Indiana Jones Chronicles. Not so bothered about Volume 3, which is a bit jazzy, but 1, 2 and 4, and this is of course Rosenthal and McNeely. Cracking stuff. In terms of a main theme though, shout out to David Arnold for Good Omens, which is just a fabulous piece of title music, fabulous piece of title animation that it accompanies as well. Next question, best soundtrack to fall asleep to. One could take that to mean calm and relaxing or utterly boring. Let's assume it means the first. I don't think I'm the sort of person who has ever put on a piece of music with the intention of letting it lull me to sleep. Don't understand the concept really. But in terms of things that can help drown out the world, sometimes when I'm at work and people are being noisy, I normally stick on a pair of headphones and listen to white noise. But if I'm going to listen to music instead of white noise, it'll be that, which is Hans Zimmer's Interstellar. This is the Starbox edition, which could have fitted into that quirky packaging section earlier, because this is the one with the lights that shine on your ceiling and flash on and off. Yeah. and they're triggered by a little magnet on the side, like your fridge light. Worst cover art of all time. Now, I'm a bit of a fan of sort of graphic design and typography and layout and things, and so bad cover designs distress me, as do bad spelling and bad typography and things like that. It would be very easy to dunk on, let's say, Michael J. Lewis promos, but that would be unfair because, you know, he's a composer, not a graphic designer. So if he's got poor taste in fonts, then that's not his fault, is it? On the other hand, we've got some professional labels here. We've got Intrada back in the old days, and Milan and Virgin Gaumont. Some strange choices. This is a mid-80s edition of Islands in the Stream by Jerry Goldsmith, released on Intrada. It's just a coastline with a kind of strange mauve tint put on it, with a kind of stretched italicised lettering, and it's just naff. Especially considering I've got to assume that they didn't have access to rights to the Bob Peak cover art. I'll put a picture up on the screen of an inlay. That tea's gone cold. Yeah, because otherwise it's like, why wouldn't you use that art? That's marvellous. That's poor. I'm doing this in a kind of top 3 here. That's third. Second is this compilation from Milan called The Best of Scandinavian Film Music, which has got Stefan Nilsson, Björn Isfeldt and Per Norgard on it. But it's like somebody couldn't be bothered to find a font other than just Helvetica, type it in, that'll do. It's just dull, 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 dull. And I'm presuming that's just some piece of stock imagery, is it? Well, maybe it's a picture from one of the films, yeah, but you can put a bit more typographic effort into it, can't you, than that? But my winner on worst soundtrack art, cover art, is this English language edition of The Fifth Element by Eric Serra, as put out by Virgin and Gaumont. I can see what's happened here is that the makers of the film have supplied them with flat artwork of the French title release. So the image as a whole says Le Cinquième Élément, and they've thought, oh no, English language, we can't put that out. And they hadn't got layered artwork in order to take the French out. And somebody decided, well, what we'll do is we'll crop in past the French text, just into the bit in the middle of the picture, and then we'll overlay. And they decided to overlay on the middle bit, which is the city, the kind of aerial shots of the tall skyscrapers. Firstly, the kind of 5 pillars of fire that represent the 5 elements, but without any kind of blending mode, so it's just with a black outline around them. And then the logo in the middle with the title, and then the text in white, and it's just a mess and you can't see any of it, and it's just like horrible. I think you could have got away with just putting the full-size thing with Let It Be French. I think English language people would have managed to comprehend Le Cinquième Élément. Here's a nice generic, easy one. Favourite theme, favourite movie theme of all time. It's going to be a John Williams, isn't it? Isn't it? Indeed. Yeah. Next question is the only one that doesn't involve show us some actual specific soundtracks. It's where do you store your albums? Well, that's where most of them are, on these shelves behind me. That lot is all the actual film soundtracks, except for John Williams, Jerry Goldsmith and Hans Zimmer, because there isn't enough room for those three. They're in the other room. It excludes compilations. They're in another room. It excludes things of other genres, like got some things that aren't soundtracks. Pop music, classical music, spoken word comedy. Those are in another room. And if you can bear the seasickness that will come from this, there is most of the vinyl. Yeah, I've got a few in another room, but that's most of my vinyl. And the next question is obscurity. Something that you think no other participants to this challenge are going to have. Again, I've got 3 goes at this. It's a bit like doing Pointless. I have 3 goes and see which one scores 0. My first option for that I found in a record fair. It's Bird of Paradise by Max Steiner. It's 2 discs on a gatefold, and when it says the complete soundtrack of the classic film, it literally means that. It's got the dialogue, the sound effects, everything, as well as Max Steiner's music on it. It's basically the film on 2 records. It's a bit odd. My second choice is a television soundtrack. It took me ages to find a copy of this. It's Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson from the Russian TV series, hence why it's all in Cyrillic. That's by Vladimir Dashkevich. Well done to you if any of the rest of you have got that. And the third one is a Miriam Cutler score, which mostly exists as a digital download. But the people at Perseverance Records, according to their website, did promos of 20 copies of this score on CDRs. And that was like in 2020 or something like that. So I ordered a copy thinking, am I going to actually get a copy of this? And I did. So there we are. There's Till Kingdom Come is what that's called. And in terms of where I was saying about being distressed by bad typography, that is an opening speech mark and it should be an apostrophe, so it should be the other way around. But hey, yeah. So how many copies of that are rattling around? I don't know. So those are my answers to those 20 questions. See what you've got. As I say, you don't have to do them all. Well, you don't have to do any of them. You can just sit here and watch if you like.
It's dead easy to take part. The rules are simple. First, make your own video, answering as many or as few of the questions as you like in any order you want. Second, mention in your video which of our videos you're responding to, and feel free to tag any other friends you'd like to see take part. And third, when you upload, include the hashtag MovieMusicTag2024 in the title or description. That's all there is to it.
I shall be back at the end of the month with my February disempangagements. In the meantime, upload your own versions. Let's see them. And stay fresh, cheese bags.